This evening, Ramjatan versus Charandass. Ramjatan ordered to pay $7 million in defamation. Bandit fatally shot amid a home invasion. Vice President Bharrat Jadgeo sues Sue. In the region, Cuba marks 69th anniversary of revolution's start, and internationally, northern Philippines earthquake kills at least 5. Welcome to another broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Updates. I am VP Bharrat. Thank you for joining us. A Guyana High Court has ordered Ramjatan to pay former Member of Parliament and current High Commissioner to India, Charandass $7 million for defamation over comments he made in relation to his vote against the then government in a no-confidence motion. Prasad had originally filed a $30 million lawsuit in 2019 against Ramjatan, who was at the time the country's public security minister. The opposition Member of Parliament and leader of the Alliance for Change was ordered to pay Prasad $7 million for defamation by High Court Judge Joanne Barlow. In the local press and on social media, Ramjatan, who was the public security minister at the time, asserted that Prasad had received the money in exchange for his vote against the APNU-AFC government. Prasad consistently refuted the claim. Ramjatan contended during the court hearing that the words ascribed to him were not defamatory. However, Judge Barlow refuted the claim, citing evidence in front of the court where Ramjatan was seen making a particular reference to Prasad. Ramjatan's use of the terms piece of silver and Judas in connection to Prasad's vote in the no-confidence motion was determined by the judge to have been defamatory. The High Court judge, in handing down the judgment, ordered Ramjatan to refrain from making statements that suggest that Prasad was in any way compensated financially for his vote in the no-confidence motion. A bandit was fatally shot amid a home invasion on Demerara's West Bank. Esther Sobers has more details.
A bandit is now dead after he allegedly begged the owner of the home he was burglarizing to take his life. The police in Region Division 3 is investigating the fatal shooting at Lenorun Ford at Lot 3 Unity Street, Lagrange, West Bank, Demerara, during the wee hours of this morning. According to a police report, the victim, 34-year-old businessman Anil Singh, and his wife, 32-year-old Christina Singh of Unity Street, Lagrange, retired to bed on Tuesday night in their flat, which was attached to the northern side of the two-story concrete building. Around 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday, July 27th, they awoke to the sound of their apartment being forcefully opened. The businessman armed himself with a licensed .32 Taurus pistol and stood behind his bedroom door while his wife and child remained in bed. It is alleged two suspects, Ford and an unidentified man armed with a cutlass and a crowbar, rushed into the bedroom. Ford was allegedly shot in the leg by Singh, causing him to fall to the ground. The other perpetrator escaped in an unknown direction. According to Singh's wife, Christina, the injured man begged Anil Singh to take his life by shooting. Singh refused and a scuffle ensued between them, resulting in several rounds of ammunition being discharged, injuring both Anil Singh and Ford. The police were contacted and upon arrival, Ford was found lying motionless in a pool of blood. Several gunshot wounds were evident on his head and body. Anil Singh also had gunshot wounds about his body. Anil Singh was taken to the West Demerara Regional Hospital, where he was seen by a doctor and admitted as a patient. Ford's body is staying at the Ezekiel Funeral Home, awaiting a post-mortem. The wife of the businessman is in police custody assisting with the investigation, while the gun used in the incident was lodged. The area was canvassed for CCTV cameras. The scene was processed, and 5 spent shells of .32 ammunition, 4 live rounds, and 2 metal fragments suspected to be warheads were also found at the scene. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. Ghana's Vice President Bharrat Jadgeo has filed a $50 million lawsuit against Chinese businessman Su Zhirong for the statements he made during a Vice News documentary report. The statements made by Su Zhirong, featured in the news broadcast, implied criminal and unlawful behavior on the part of the Vice President of Ghana, according to Jadgeo, who claimed through his attorney that the statements were intended to discredit him personally and in the position he currently holds. The lawsuit comes just a few weeks after Mr. Jadgeo said he would pursue his former tenant, Chinese billionaire Su Zhirong, over the defamatory and slanderous statements he made in a Vice News undercover report. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of the Vice President by attorney Manoj Narayan and C.V. Satram. The lawsuit states that Vice President Jadgeo has allegedly been subjected to public condemnation, humiliation, ridicule, and embarrassment as a result of the statements that were featured in the documentary. Jadgeo had adamantly denied accepting bribe in exchange for any agreements Sue may have secured. After Vice News aired the documentary, Sujirong issued a statement denying the involvement of Mr. Jadgeo in any corrupt transactions. Also, subsequently to the airing of the documentary report by Vice News, opposition leader Aubrey Norton presented a motion to the National Assembly calling for an international investigation into the allegations of bribery and corruption made against Vice President Bharrat Jadgeo in the news report. Stick around after the break. Both defendants in the 2017 murder of a bread vendor in Sophia acquitted, and Exxon struck more oil.
Traveling soon? Then come into John Lewis Styles on Waterloo Street and let's help you choose the right set of luggage. You can choose to buy 3-piece luggage sets, or separate pieces, but the sets are always a better deal. Either available in soft poly, or ABS hard side material, with 4-wheeled spinners, and in many colors too. Also available are carry-on luggage, computer bags, duffel bags, backpacks, travel pillows, blankets and lots more to make your trip enjoyable. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Welcome back. The government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Natural Resources, in compliance with the principles of transparency and accountability and good governance, yesterday announced 2 new oil field discoveries by Exxon Exploration and Production Guyana and Partners Offshore Guyana to the southeastern of Liza and Prairie developments in the Stabroek Block. The discoveries at Seabob and Kirukuru are the 6th and 7th in Guyana this year, bringing the total number of economically viable discoveries within the block offshore Guyana to 33. Minister of Natural Resources VP Bharrat stated that the discoveries would continue to ascend Guyana as an oil-producing and exporting nation, which would enhance the government's efforts to diversify away from oil and focus on the world-class healthcare, infrastructure, and other social services to enhance the lives of all Guyanese. Minister Bharrat said the government would continue to work with local stakeholders and international partners to ensure all petroleum activities are conducted in keeping with the best environmental and sustainability practices. The Ministry of Natural Resources continues to closely monitor exploration, drilling, and resource development in Guyana, where it is already increasing production with 2 floating production, storage, and offloading vessels operating offshore Guyana. The government of Guyana welcomes the addition of 2 new discoveries offshore Guyana, totaling 33 discoveries within the Stabroek Block and 38 discoveries overall, which will further strengthen Guyana as a petroleum-producing economy, while at the same time be guided by good international oil field practices for effective and efficient governance. Both defendants in the 2017 murder of a bread vendor was acquitted, as the source explains.
A second defendant was acquitted in the 2017 slaying of Andre Alexander, a bread vendor from Sophia, when he appeared at the Demerara High Court on Tuesday, July 26, 2022. Neville Ford was acquitted of the murder accused by a 12-member jury empaneled before Justice Joanne Barlow. Following a 2-hour-long deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous not guilty verdict. Ford was represented by attorney-at-law Ronald Daniels. Ford had refuted the claims that he shot and killed 42-year-old Alexander on May 5, 2017, while conducting a robbery. According to a police report, 2 individuals on a motorcycle shot and killed Alexander during a robbery. He was assaulted by the men at his bread stand, which was roughly 4 doors from his house at Sophia. Alexander immediately rushed to the hospital and was taken into surgery but subsequently succumbed. The police had reported the 2 men rode up on a motorcycle and the pillion rider requested 3 loaves of bread. He then paid with a $5,000 note. However, while Alexander was in the process of making change, the customer whipped out a gun and demanded cash. 2 shots were fired by the bandits after Alexander put up a fight with them. The 2 men stole 3 loaves of bread from him and left with his cash. In 2019, a 12-member jury was ordered by Justice Navindra Singh to return a formal verdict of not guilty for Shaquille Grant, Ford, alleged co-accused. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. The Ministry of Housing and Water Central Housing and Planning Authority is working out the procedures for the distribution of steel and cement announced by President Dr. Irfan Ali as part of the government support for home builders. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell said the technical team is combining the final documentation for the initiative. President Ali announced last Friday that persons constructing homes costing $6 million or less would be given the steel needed and 1 sling of cement for the construction of the foundation. For home builders spending $6 million to $25 million, the government will provide 2 slings of cement. The government also announced the provision of steel and cement for its turnkey house lot allocation exercise. The home builders will also benefit from a 3.8% interest on home loans up to $9 million. The Central Housing and Planning Authority Chief Executive Officer Sharon Graves reiterated the need for transparency and accountability during the implementation of the initiative. Don't go away after the break. Northern Philippines earthquake kills at least 5 and Russia to quit International Space Station after 2024.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Cab Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Traveling soon? Then come into John Lewis Styles on Waterloo Street and let's help you choose the right set of luggage. You can choose to buy 3-piece luggage sets or separate pieces, but the sets are always a better deal. Either available in soft poly or ABS hard side material with 4-wheeled spinners and in many colors too. Also available are carry-on luggage, computer bags, duffel bags, backpacks, travel pillows, blankets and lots more to make your trip enjoyable. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at news in the region and around the world. Cuba has been marking 69 years since the start of a communist uprising, which eventually led to Fidel Castro seizing power. It is a bittersweet anniversary for most Cubans as the nation faces its worst economic crisis in 3 decades. Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman reports.
It's Cuba's most celebrated anniversary, the failed attack on the Moncada military barracks by Fidel and Raúl Castro, which marked the start of the Cuban Revolution. 69 years later, Raúl Castro, now 91, still appears to be going strong. But it's his successor, Miguel Díaz-Canel, who must deal with escalating disenchantment with the revolution.
The imperial logic is betting on amnesia of our history and social paralysis. They are betting the material needs provoked by 63 years of their infamous blockade will break the spirit of resistance of our people.
He was, of course, referring to the world's longest economic embargo imposed on Cuba by the United States. Cuba is undergoing its worst economic crisis in 30 years. Power blackouts this month in the middle of the stifling summer have led to street protests, while tens of thousands of Cubans are fleeing. Díaz-Canel continues to argue that the U.S. economic embargo is the root of all of Cuba's woes. But on this occasion, he issued a novel challenge to the United States.
We conclude that they maintain their blockade because without it our country would be a model of a humane society, too subversive for the current world order. If I'm wrong, then lift the blockade immediately, completely and without restrictions, and remove our so-called pretext.
In the meantime, Díaz-Canel promised that in a few weeks he'll announce the details of an economic reactivation plan to counter acute shortages of food, supplies and energy. He ended the ceremony with the traditional, though increasingly questioned, cry of socialism and fatherland or death. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera.
In Internationally, at least 5 people have been killed after an earthquake struck in northern Philippines. Although it did not generate a tsunami warning, government seismologists fear the worst might be yet to come, Al Jazeera's Barnaby Lou reports.
A centuries-old bell tower crumbling as a magnitude 7.0 earthquake strikes the Philippines' northern provinces. It sent people out of their homes and buildings and into the streets. The tremor was felt all the way to the capital Manila, 300 kilometers to the south, where metro train operations were disrupted.
Of course I was afraid because we didn't feel that much shaking with previous quakes, but with this one the impact was really strong. We felt it on the 11th floor. There were items that fell down, so we panicked a bit, but we managed to calm ourselves.
In severely affected areas, small buildings caved, walls crumbled, and historic structures gave in. The earthquake cracked open concrete roads and triggered landslides.
Landslides are a problem, especially not only for earthquakes but during rain. So we have to make sure that areas that are affected by landslide and starting or incipient landslide should be avoided.
Let them do their work. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. opted not to travel to the region, which is where his hometown is located. But he assured victims of the national government's continuing efforts to help them recover from the disaster. The earthquake that struck northern Philippines did not generate a tsunami warning, but government seismologists warn while the worst may be over, aftershocks are expected to persist for days. Barnaby Lou, Al Jazeera, Manila.
And finally, Russia has decided to quit the International Space Station after 2024 and focus on creating its own orbital outpost, according to the newly appointed chief of the country's space agency. Al Jazeera's Fitan Monaghan reports.
The future of this beacon of international cooperation may be in doubt. When the war in Ukraine prompted the West to sever nearly all ties with Russia, the International Space Station was one of the few exceptions.
3, 2, 1.
Now, after more than 20 years of partnership, Russia says it's pulling out.
Of course, we will fulfill all our obligations to our partners, but the decision to leave after 2024 has been taken. I think that by that time, we will begin to form a Russian orbital station.
And liftoff. To many, this move was a surprise. NASA and the Russian Space Agency had only just signed a new agreement to ferry astronauts to the station. In May, the head of the European Space Agency said cutting ties with Russia on the ISS was technically impossible. Both sides are responsible for different technologies on the station, and neither is trained to operate the others without assistance.
It's going to cause problems. The Russian sort of side of things is in charge of several key systems on board the International Space Station. Probably one of the most key ones is its propulsion system. So that's the thing that stops it from, because it's just about in Earth's atmosphere, and over time its orbit does slowly degrade as it gets closer, and occasionally it needs to get its orbit boosted up again, and the Russian segment is responsible for doing that.
First through the hatch is Denis Matviov.
Since the war in Ukraine broke out, even life in space hasn't gone untouched by the politics of Earth. In April, questions were asked about the Russian crew's choice of spacesuit, which matched the colors of the Ukrainian flag. They denied any hidden messages, but many saw it as a protest against Russia's war. In July, the Russian crew made a much clearer political statement. They posed for photos with the flags of Luhansk and Donetsk, two Russian-backed breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine.
It's unfortunate that the politics on the ground have now reached up into space. Before, the ISS was the one common ground that we had where, it was in everyone's interest that it work, and neither side used the ISS for these kinds of political posturings for events on the ground.
The ISS was first established back in 1998. Research on the station has led to breakthroughs in battling cancer, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. Monitoring natural disasters from space has also helped relief efforts here on Earth. But with Russia and China now planning to complete their own space stations in the coming years, a period of space cooperation may be giving way to a new era of space competition. Fitan Monaghan, Al Jazeera.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. that is all for this edition of Channel 2's Headline News Update. Tune in on Thursday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.